Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am talking about a very budget-friendly pen, and that is the Moonman 600S. I love Moonman pens. They have very many different models, and they're all quite cheap. I also really like their nibs. They make pens with Schmidt nibs, but they also make pens with their own nibs. And this is one of their offerings that has a number 6 nib. And they don't have many of those. This is quite a large pen, and for those of you who have big hands or really just like using big pens, I think this would be a good offering. So it's a steel nib, number 6 nib that screws out. I've tried to find information about whether you can replace the nib. I haven't found anything conclusive, so you could try it with some other number 6 nibs, but I think the nib housing, so the unit itself, needs to be exactly the same if you want to do that. And I would not really like messing that up myself. So let me know if you have tried switching the nib, because I'm sure people are very interested in that. Anyway, enough rambling about nib units. Let's go take a close-up look at this pen. I'll compare it with some other pens to show you the size, and I'll do a writing sample for you and talk a little bit about the feel of the nib. Okay, let's switch the shot. Here we have a close-up of the Moonman 600S. A very beautiful pen. I have the green or emerald version of it, and it has a gorgeous finish that reminds me of the Pelikan M805 in Ocean Swirl. I don't have that to compare it to this because I sold mine, but I will post close-up pictures of this pen either in the description box or in the comments, and I'll try to see if I have any pictures of the M800. The finish is a little different, but it does really remind me of that specific finish. So it has gold hardware. It has a very functional clip. It's not too stiff, and you can fit quite a thick shirt in there. No logos here or here. And the shape of this pen is very reminiscent of the Parker Dual Fold. I've looked this up. It is only slightly bigger, but the dimensions are basically the same. I don't know much about the Dual Fold. I just know that it's a very classic Parker pen, and they've tried to emulate the shape and the style of it. Luckily, no real arrow clip, because that would have been very blatant. Okay, uncapped. We see a black section. The section is quite large. It's fine for me. I have thick fingers with small hands. As you can see, it does stick out quite a bit when I hold it. Section is not slippery. The nib is a gold-toned nib with a half moon breather hole, which I really like. This is their own number 6 nib. And I'll show you a writing sample in a bit, but I am really quite impressed with the Moonman nibs. I really like them. Unscrew the barrel. There's a converter in here. It's a fairly sturdy converter. Nothing wrong with it. Works well. And again, I've said this before when I was talking about the M100. They have the name of the brand right here. And I think that's just a detail that's very nice. No problems screwing that back on. Screwing this back on takes quite a few turns. I have not calculated how much. I can check if I can see that now. That's 1. That's 2. 3. That's almost 3 turns to uncap it. So this is not a quick draw pen. In comparison to other pens, the size, it's not dissimilar to the Safari or the TOSB Eco, and I have 2 Moonmans here, the M100 and the C1. I believe this one has the number 6 nib too. I can compare them. Yes, it does, only it is silver toned. So capped, it's very similar to all these pens. Let's compare it to the Safari uncapped. Safari is a very like general size pen. Many people have it. So let's see. So they're basically the same. The Safari is even a little longer. So it feels like a very substantial pen, but when you compare it to, for example, the Safari, it is not much bigger. It's not bigger at all. It's actually smaller. The difference is the materials. The materials of the Moonman are quite a lot heavier, but it's not unbalanced in any way. It feels really good. So if you like the Safari size, the Moonman size would work for you. Posting this is super awkward because you can't really push it past this. But it is quite secure. It does make the pen really unbalanced because this becomes very back heavy. So I would not suggest doing that. This Moonman, the M100, has a Schmidt nib. They used to make the M600 with a Schmidt nib. That came in a checkered pattern. The M600S does not have a Schmidt nib, but it's also much cheaper. So the one with the Schmidt nib was around $60, I believe. I paid $20 for this one, or even a little less. And I like Schmidt nibs, but I also like Moonman nibs. So the Schmidt nib for me is no additional value. Okay, let's go to a writing sample of this Moonman M100. It starts up right away. It's a fairly smooth writer. So it's the Moonman 600S. It's about $20, which is not bad. Number 6 nib. It has the ink Lamy Petrol in there, which is a fairly wet ink. I would say fine-ish medium nib. They describe this as a fine, but it's not a very fine nib. If you put pressure on the nib, you can get some line variation. This is not a pen to be flexed. This is just a workhorse pen, not for fancy writing. But if you must, I guess you can a little bit, but it's stiff, so you have to really push. And I don't think any of you want to spring a nib. It's fairly wet. I had a dry ink in here before, it does matter what kind of ink you put in here. So this is a fairly wet ink. The pen itself, I would say it's not overly wet. So you can do a medium wet ink in here. You can do a wet ink in here, and it wouldn't be too much. But I would not put a dry ink in here, if I'm honest. So fairly wet, mostly due to the ink. So choose well. Of course, this can differ per nib, per pen, but mine is not super wet. And that is my experience with the C1 as well. So the C1 also has the number 6 nib, it was also not very wet. They are really good. They are smooth. These are smooth nibs. I have no complaints about that. So don't hesitate to get one of these because they are very good. Okay, before I go, after this writing sample, I think we should give my dog the attention she deserves because she's been very barky. Baby, what you doing? What you doing? Are you borking? She's wagging her tail. That's what she does. She's scared of the tripod. Evie. Hey, sit. Sit. Good girl. You're a good girl. Okay, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you have any suggestions, also leave them in the comments. I hope my dog barking didn't bother you too much. This is a reality I have to work with, alas. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.